Alright, another anime archetype that has not been printed for a while until now. This time Sergei's archetype, that being the Earthbound Servants. I am so happy these are finally being printed, and I'll count them as a separate archetype to the Earthbound Immortals, because technically they have a different style. But anyway, let's begin. So we start off with Earthbound Prisoner Groundkeeper, which is a level 1 Dark Fiend Tuner with 300 attack and defense. Its first effect is a hard once per turn, where if this card is no more special summon, you can special summon one level 5 or lower Earthbound monster from your deck or graveyard except itself. Or Earthbound Servant, because that's not part of the archetype. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except for fusions and synchros. Basically, for anime reasons, he's created by a fusion user, hence the fusion summoning, and synchros because he's at the synchro dimension. That's why it's only restricted to those two. Would have been nice if it says it allows you for exceeds as well. But anyway, second effect. Earthbound monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects while there's a field spell on the field, except for Earthbound Servant, because not part of the archetype. Earthbounds in general has a playstyle where you want to have a field spell on the field, especially Earthbound Immortals where you need the field spell, but ignoring that, at least the Earthbound Servants are not restricted like the Earthbound Immortals are. The field spell part of their effects is basically just an added bonus. In this case, this one is actually pretty good, giving you no destruction. But overall, it is a 3-up immediately because it just makes your plays with the first effect. Next, Earthbound Prisoner Stone Sweeper, which is a level 5 Dark Fiend with 1600 attack and defense, and both of its effects are hard once per turn. The first one is if there's a field spell card, you can special summon this card from your hand. Easy condition, and spoiler alert, there will be a level 6 Synchro, so this with a level 5 and the last card being level 1, and also a tuner that makes level 6, just letting you know. But anyway, second effect, you can discard this card, add one level 3 or lower Fiend tuner from your deck to your hand. Also, you are restricted to special summoning synchros and fusions from your extra deck for the rest of the turn. This is just overall really good for being your searcher, so it's an instant 3-up, and the fact that it says any level 3 or lower Fiend tuner makes this a tech card in some decks. Next, Earthbound Prisoner Line Walker. It's a level 3 Dark Fiend Tuner with 800 attack, 1100 defense. Both effects are hard once per turn. The first one is if this card is no more special summon, you can add one Earthbound Prison or Harmonic Synchro Fusion from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Very important because those two are very key cards for your deck. One of them is the field spell, and the other one basically lets you perform both a fusion and synchro summon at the same time, which will be explained later when we see those cards. But that's an instant 3-up because you really need those cards. But anyway, second effect. If you control a level 6 or higher Earthbound monster, aka your boss monsters, except Earthbound Spirit, not part of the archetype, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one effect monster your opponent controls that was special summoned from the extra deck, shuffle that into the deck, then your opponent can special summon one monster with the same name from their extra deck. You would mainly use this card for the first effect. The second effect is basically kind of just an added bonus, but I don't really see much use of it, especially just replacing that monster that probably has a bunch of effects just for another copy of itself basically. And now to the fusions, we start off with Earthbound Servant Kraken. It's a level 8 Dark Fiend Fusion with 2800 attack, 1200 defense, requires 2 Earthbound monsters, not Earthbound Spirit, and both effects are hard once per turn. The first one is if this card is special summon, you can add one field spell from your deck or graveyard to your hand. This is obviously going to be helpful because the field spell is going to be one of your main cards and basically lets you add some bonus effects. But anyway, second effect. If a monster is special summoned from your opponent's extra deck, you can destroy as many of their special summon monsters this turn as possible. If you do, inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent for every monster destroyed by this effect. You would mainly use this for the field spell search, but the second effect isn't entirely too bad, especially when you could practically disrupt your opponent's play. And it's one of the easier boss monsters to summon out, so obviously you should run this. And then to the main boss monster of the deck, Earthbound Servant Gracia. It's a level 10 Dark Fiend Fusion with 3000 attack, 1800 defense, requires one Earthbound Fusion monster and one Earthbound Synchro monster. It must be fusion summoned, and its effect is, at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a monster, change that monster's attack and defense to 0. So basically this could just run over anything. That is pretty strong right there, and doesn't require the field spell, which is a nice added part. But anyway, the second effect, which is a hard once per turn, if your opponent's monster is destroyed destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls. Yeah, so this could just run over anything and basically trigger this second effect to nuke everything else. That is quite powerful and I already like this card. But the third effect, if this card leaves the field by your opponent, you can special summon one Earthbound monster from your deck or extra deck that is not Earthbound Spirit. Unfortunately, you can't revive itself because it must be fusion summoned, but it's just overall nice that you could bring back any Earthbound monster, including your Earthbound Immortals if you decide to run that. But those are only good if you have a field spell, by the way. At least these Earthbound Servants don't require the field spell. But overall, this is a pretty nice monster. Basically, it could just run over anything, and once you run over something, you nuke your opponent's board. And if this card dies, you bring something back. So yeah, pretty cool. Moving on to the Synchros, our first one is Earthbound Servant Griffin. Level 6 Dark Fiend Synchro with 2000 attacks, 1000 defense, requires 1 Dark Tuner and 1 or more non-tuners. Both of its effects are hard once per turn, the first one being during your main phase quick effect you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, and your opponent chooses one of these effects. Destroy that monster or gain life points equal to that monster's attack. The downside about this effect is that your opponent gets to choose which of the two effects apply. The nice part is that either effect is actually pretty good and beneficial to you. That's the only downside about this effect, and it's also quick effect, which is also pretty nice. But anyway, second effect, during the battle phase quick effect, you can fusion summon one Earthbound fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials from your hand, field, and or graveyard. Basically, play extension with this card. No reason not to run this, and the first effect is pretty decent even if your opponent has to choose. Next, Earthbound Servant Griffin. It's a level 8 Dark Fiend Synchro with 2500 attack, 1500 defense, requires 1 Dark Tuner and 1 or more non-tuners, and its effects are both hard once per turn. The first one is a quick effect where you can special summon one Earthbound monster in your graveyard in defense, except itself, or Earthbound Servant, not part of the archetype. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, it's set for fusions and synchros. This is overall a nice effect, and not only that, it's a quick effect. Lets you basically make more plays, or in some cases, even lets you play defensively as well if necessary. But anyway, second effect. If this card is destroyed by your opponent, you can destroy one card on the field, then inflict 300 points of damage for every Earthbound monsters with different name you control and in your graveyard except Earthbound Servant. Non-targeting destruction, and it could be destroyed by your opponent by any means, with a special summon effect as well, so this is actually pretty decent. Oh, and that extra burn is just a nice added bonus. It's like your opponent is attacking a bomb. And now to the spells. The first card is the field spell, Earthbound Prison. When this card is activated, you can target one effect monster you control. This card gets this effect. Negate that monster's effect. On activation, you can negate a monster effect. Not too bad! But anyway, second effect. During your main phase, you can normal summon one Earthbound monster in addition to your normal summoner set, except Earthbound Servant, because not part of the archetype. You can only get this effect once per turn. This is just overall pretty nice because it just basically lets you do more plays, obviously. But anyway, third effect. If this card is destroyed by your opponent's card effect, and you have an Earthbound monster in your field and or graveyard, half your opponent's life. If you do, negate the effects of all face-up cards their opponent currently controls until the end of this turn. So if your opponent manages to destroy this, it basically punishes them. I really love this effect, especially the halving your opponent's life. If they're a max life, that's a lot of life right there. But you mainly use this for the second effect to basically get you your additional normal summon. The first effect is just a nice added bonus. Finally, Harmonic Synchro Fusion. It's a normal spell, and you can only activate one of these per turn. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except for fusion and synchros. But the effect is, send 2 face-up monsters you control to the graveyard that is 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner, special summon 1 fusion monster and 1 synchro monster from your extra deck that can be fusion and synchro summoned by using those sent monsters of the graveyard as material. Basically, you are performing a fusion and synchro summon at the same time with the same 2 monsters. Sure, you need to be able to perform a synchro summon by using those materials to use this card for the fusion summon, but this is just pretty nice that you can basically use the same 2 monsters for 2 different extra deck summons. This is an instant 3-up for the deck, obviously, and it's basically the main playstyle of Earthbound Servants, letting you fusion and synchro summon. And considering that your Earthbound Prisons are basically like an engine that can search each other, special summon, this isn't exactly too hard, and you got a good engine already. So that's it for the new Earthbound Servant archetype finally being printed. What do you guys think of it? I think it is just a cool archetype that should have been printed long ago with Arc 5, but at least it's finally good to see it with improved effects. And I've been liking its design, so there's that as well. And overall, I have to say I actually like it, especially the fusion synchro aspect of it. Unfortunately, no exceed, especially in the Arc 5 era, but that's an oh well. But overall, pretty cool. Other than that, that's it for this, and see you all next time.